Due to the following CBS School Break special, Magnum PI will not be seen today. It will be broadcast tomorrow in the regular time period.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Time again for another Word Balloon podcast. It's To the Outer Limits. John Suntress here. We're up close and personal right now. We're getting extreme close-up. I can pull back if we need to. Yang. I'll do that.
That's so much less intense. I don't know. I feel we'll stick with it. It's fine.
I think we're fine. That's all right. I just want to show everybody the pile of junk that's behind me. So that's all. But good to see Ian Brill. Good to see Gabe Hardman. Really excited about today's conversation. A great contrast to last week. We had Joe Stefano's one directorial effort, and this week we focus on Leslie Stevens' Incubus.
Yeah, I believe this is his third feature film, but and maybe we'll talk a little bit about Private Property later on. But this is a crazy movie. This is like just, the movie in and of itself is crazy, but just the idea that you would set out to make a film that was entirely in Esperanto, the constructed language of Esperanto, as a sort of ploy to sell it internationally as if it were a foreign film. It's just sounds like people got high and came up with an idea that they knew was a winner, and then actually followed through with it.
But then again, as you say, it is in the era of Bergman and all of those foreign films, and you have these little art house theaters. Is it really, especially for your average, North American audience person, to go to a foreign movie and see a movie in Esperanto with subtitles? Is that different from seeing an Italian movie or a French movie or whatever?
Apparently the audiences of 1966 would say yes, because they stayed away in droves. But, anyway, this movie is like what they would call these days a folk horror, right? It's a folk horror movie. It's it takes place in some sort of like unnamed other land. The people speaking Esperanto is supposed to give it this sense, it's a sort of ploy on one hand, but it's also supposed to give you this sense that it's not that this is someplace a little bit out of time in this somewhat fairy tale-ish world, although there are some slightly contemporary elements to it. And it stars William Shatner in his not his first lead in a feature. I believe that was the Corman picture, The Intruder. Certainly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly this is one of his earlier starring roles.
Role. I mean, prominent role in Judgment in Nuremberg as Spencer Tracy's kind of sidekick or a little attendant and everything during the Berlin trials, the Nuremberg trials. Obviously I watched the DVD and I've got it handy, and really the DVD is terrific.
Yes,
because and especially for people like us, because it has these great special features. I'm sure it was great for you, Gabe, in particular, and I'm sure we'll get into the words of Conrad Hall right there for you.
Yeah,
the producer as well, and the other cameraman, I guess, on the film.
Yeah, William Fraker, who had been the camera operator on The Outer Limits for the episodes that Conrad Hall shot, and some others, I believe. But sure. And also, I mean, we'll talk about this later a little bit. But also the cameraman on this movie was this guy Chuck Rocher, who he later went on to be like a cameraman for Robert Altman and stuff. Like all these people have a great pedigree to them, and this is like the early days.
Yeah.
So like as far as the plot of this movie, it's basically there's like a kind of group of succubi, female demon type characters who go around leading men to their death, and one of them gets a little bored with how dumb and easy men are to lead to their death and wants to find something more interesting. And I may be a little bit oversimplifying, but until she meets up with Mark, William Shatner's character, who's got some moralizing Christian ideas that bump up against the paganism of this world.
Yeah, she really wants to find this very virtuous man to corrupt. That's kind of her MO. And, and then she meets with the other succubi. But, you're right. I mean, the story is kind of weirdly silly in its own way.
But I like it though. I'm not writing it down at all. I actually really enjoy this movie, and I think it's and I think that the fact that it's, I mean, I said this on Twitter, but I think it's basically like an Ingmar Bergman fan film. Like there's such a clear homage to the style of those Bergman movies. Particularly Seventh Seal. The most popular one then and now, and like the lead actress even is it Allison Ames? Like she looks like a woman from a Bergman movie. I mean, she looks like Ingrid Thulin, or like if I'm not entirely sure that I could tell you she wasn't in a Bergman movie. So there's such a it's such a deliberate attempt, but it's also really well done in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, it's a little bit silly, and yes, if you read those Esperanto lines in English, it would probably be a little bit insufferable. But they're not in English; they're in Esperanto, and it has a kind of charm in that. Ian, what'd you think?
It's funny. The Esperanto, you think it's a gimmick, and I suppose it was. I tried listening to the William Shatner commentary, but to be honest, it didn't sound like he was too interested in doing that commentary.
God, what a load of shit that was! Like, my God, like he's just wanking off, making shit up the entire time. There's like no effort. Actually, for the first like 30 seconds of it, I thought, hey, William Shatner is actually talking about his life and career and stuff in like coherent terms. And then immediately goes off the rails, totally worthless, and spends half the movie like not even saying anything. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like most of the times they say don't watch the commentary first, but you're fine watching this because he's not talking through most of the movies. But one thing he does say when he's somewhat focused and somewhat clear-headed is that Leslie Stevens said to him when Shatner asked why Esperanto, Stevens said something like, there's 5 people who speak Esperanto in Detroit, and there's 7 who speak it in Baltimore. And basically this film will have a audience in every city, but I guess they failed to realize it would have an audience of like 3 in every city.
It doesn't. I'm not like a mathematician over here, but I can tell there are more than 5 seats in a movie theater, and you probably have to play it more than once. So I just feel like maybe they didn't think everything through.
But the Esperanto
is John muted? I think John might be muted.
John, we need.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ian. I wanted to just briefly correct and say what Shatner said was, you know, or that Leslie seems like, you know, there's 7 million people around the world that speak Esperanto. So imagine the ticket sales, you know. And he goes, and I was counting the money, but what we didn't realize was, and then he said, there's 5 people in Boston and 3 people in Detroit. And it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, and I get that.
Right.
Again, I go back to that point of you plunk yourself down, like you said, Gabe. I mean, it's very Bergman-esque. I'm in here. I got the That doesn't remind me of the Seventh Seal at all. You know, totally, I mean, totally. But that said, again, yes, and it's poor man's. But is it any different than seeing a good horror movie and then seeing a William Castle movie? Or a Bergman film, and then seeing this representation of kind of that same milieu, but in this kind of cheaper, lower rent sort of way.
Although, I don't know, honestly, they probably didn't spend a lot less money than Bergman did on a lot of his movies. But I think that movies of that period anyway.
Right.
But I don't really think that, I think it is a kind of different animal. Like this isn't really what Bergman would make. It's just that those stylistic overtones really cast a shadow, and it is deliberately made to be what looks like a foreign art film of the time. And you're totally right that was a pretty viable thing in the market then. Yeah. But that doesn't that doesn't mean that this thing succeeded at pulling that off. Like, I think creatively it actually succeeds reasonably well. There's some super fun stuff in it that in a lot of ways, I mean, I guess just because it's not as available, I'm shocked that people haven't rediscovered this movie when, right now there's a big kind of fad of these kind of folk horror type things, Midsummer and all of that. And this has a crazy incubus man who turns into a fucking goat, I mean, that's right in the pocket.
Absolutely. Long before Black Phillip and the Witch. We have Incubus.
Yep. You have a goat that wrestles a woman to the ground.
Yeah, I at least have the shot of the goat that I'm sorry, guys. I was so late. There you go. There's the goat. How you doing, everybody?
This film, it should be said, there's a, I guess, I don't know if you call it like a camp element to the Esperanto, but there is genuinely disturbing stuff in this film. I would say the shots of the goat licking his lips is quite unsettling.
Sure.
And that's after we get through the, I guess there's no other way to say it, the ritualized rape and murder of William Shatner's sister by a incubus.
Right.
This film, it's not full of incident. It's actually very lackadaisical film. It's only 74 minutes. But when something happens, like it really happens.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of atmosphere and mood to it. I mean, I think it's a lot of ways a mood piece that's then being, where those particular moments of intensity, are counterpointed to that. But
Stephen asked a question that we have the answer for, and that is, how did Shatner and the cast learn the Esperanto dialogue?
The answer is they did not. The answer is they just recited it phonetically, and by all accounts, actual Esperanto speakers hear the pronunciation in this movie and think it's garbage. They didn't have an Esperanto speaker on set to actually tutor the actors in the pronunciation, so they were just winging it.
And yet, according to Shatner, not only were the actors expected to speak Esperanto during the takes, but the crew also supposedly, which
I'm fucking gonna throw up. Like, it's Esperanto. So stupid.
That's gotta be horseshit.
Bullshit. Of course it's bullshit. You know what? Look, he probably wasn't getting paid anything to go do that commentary, but still, Am I getting paid anything to do this podcast? No. But I'm coming here and I'm doing research and I'm taking it seriously like a professional. And that is exactly what the Bill Shatner of 1999 should have been doing.
I understand. It's still funny. And that's don't take the commentary of Shatner seriously. Appreciate it for the spoken language performance that dictated that period of Shatner's career.
I appreciate the long silences.
Yeah. It feels like he sabotaged it. To be quite honest,
he did sabotage it.
Oh my
Very
God.
good, Ian. Very good. Excellent. Oh my God. No, and again, and really, obviously, the story itself is from an horror standpoint is fun. It is kind of interesting. They didn't, like you said, they didn't spend a lot of money. The producer said maybe it was $100,000, $120,000. It's so interesting that the production is so tied to Outer Limits and Daystar as a company.
Yeah.
Not just using the usual people like Dominic. Is it Dominic Fortune? I never,
Frontieri. Yeah. Dominic Fortune is the Howard Chaykin.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Marvel character. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Dominic Frontieri and Conrad Hall. And, so, I mean, it really does look like this is almost like, from an Outer Limits standpoint, an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Do you know that episode?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the French produced film that became a Twilight Zone episode. Yeah,
exactly. Almost look at it that way.
Yeah, and, production-wise, the biggest difference is that they shot all of this on location.
Right, at Big Sur.
Never happened on the Outer Limits. So they're up in Big Sur, and in, I guess, around Monterey, and using that mission church and and the beaches. And I mean, if there's anything that gives you production value, it's just going outside, much less to a really amazing location, having a great photography. I think all of that is production value, and it doesn't look like a cheap movie in that sense.
No, and also I was texting Gabe earlier, Ian, while I was watching the interview that the Outer Limits author of looking at the whole series has with Hall and the producer and the other cameraman. And honestly, some of his questions, I just wanted to slap the guy, because really it's like, dude, put 2 and 2 together. He's like, wow, it's really incredible. I'm still in Shatner mode. It's really incredible that you shot this thing in 10 days. And I'm like, they were shooting hour-long Outer Limits in 6 days. If anything, it would seem like 10 is a luxury. And again, thankfully, using this Daystar crew that is used to operating on that kind of quick schedule and everything. And that's great. And it really does, again, inform the whole body of the Daystar work. Or even as the producer said, because when he was trying to figure out how much the film costs, he's like, well, the film processors, because we gave them so much business for the Outer Limits TV show, that, they cut us a deal in terms of that. So really, I mean, I really was as interested in the behind the scenes stuff for this project as much as aesthetically the film itself.
And there's a lot of behind the scenes on this project. And there's a lot of, I'll get to the cursed film of it all in a minute, but one of the things, since you brought up that, the commentary that featured Conrad Hall and William Fraker and the producer whose name escapes me. Hopefully we're still on, considering John disappeared. But
this was live at the top.
Okay, good.
We are. You see me chewing right now. That's all.
Okay, good. The thing that it was interesting in that. Like right out of the gate, somebody mentions Ingmar Bergman, and somebody mentions Sven Nykvist, Bergman's cameraman from the '60s on, and Conrad Hall is totally defensive about it and acting like this was not an influence on him. He was a Fellini guy. Like he wouldn't be emulating Bergman, which is obviously nonsense. But people, especially somebody like him, who at the point that they're recording this commentary is, he is like one of the most respected American cameramen. So I think that he was hesitant to, he's hesitant to kind of go back to the beginning and show his cards, in a certain way, like for early work. But it was still really interesting to hear them talk about it. particularly the
producer?
the producer and the stuff that kind of stuff, the behind the scenes stuff you're talking about. But and I wish that there. I mean, no offense to the guy, but I wish that there had been an interviewer who was able to kind of wrangle those guys in a little bit better, because it felt like most of the time when they were asked questions, it just put them on the defensive about about the subject. So
So is it? I've got the again, because I've got it here. It was William Fraker, I believe, is the producer, right?
No, that's the
that's the other
camera. He was the camera operator on The Outer Limits as well.
So then it was Anthony Taylor.
Yes, it was.
Anthony Taylor.
Okay. Yeah, he's the producer.
I mean, and this movie had been a lost movie for a long time as well. Like there were very few prints of it, and apparently the negative went missing at some point. As they do with low budget movies that get stored someplace. I mean, This is not in any way uncommon. And I think that for a long time they thought there was no print of it until they finally found one, at Cinémathèque Française, I think. And, and so when you're watching this, it has it has these black bars over, with white subtitles. And that's just to cover up the burn-in French subtitles on the print. What you're seeing, when you're watching this, it is very contrasty. It's obviously from a print that's a little on the contrasty side, and not from the negative. If we could watch the negative, if we could watch the negative of this, I think it would probably look amazing. Or a transfer from the negative, Right. It's. Though what I wanted to say about the subtitles is that they're like right in the middle of the screen, which seems obtrusive and weird. But but the reason for that is that for whatever reason I can't figure out, they transferred this at 1 through 3. I don't know if they talked to Zack Snyder, but in the kind of 4:3 aspect ratio, and and so like that, all that room at the top and the bottom. When you project this at a theater, that just wouldn't be there. That's where the bottom of the subtitles are. That would be where the bottom of the screen was. So it's a little puzzling why they didn't, mat it to 185, or 166 or whatever. But whatever.
And again, because they got it from France, and it was really interesting to hear the producer say that even though he was obviously an established real film producer, like they didn't trust that he was, or that he was the original producer of the movie, that he still had to go through UCLA vouching for him. And then also, even after that, the owners of the negative demanded to process it through their assets or wherever they went to get it done in France, as opposed to him having the ability to take it here. Right. So, and that's why this 1999 restoration is so interesting, and its own backstory. And the Sci-Fi Channel put money into the remaking of it as it was in 99. And I do remember being the avid Tower Records goer, even here in Chicago. And we had a great one in the city right by Lincoln Park Zoo that was as deep as your best stores, the best towers in LA or whatever. And the excitement when the VHS tape had come out in 99 of Incubus, and oh my God, it is back out. It does exist again.
Sure.
So, I do. And I may even remember commercials on the Sci-Fi Channel for it.
Oh, that may be. Yeah, I think I remember that as well. I mean, I think that this is, as far as the remastering goes, I think that this is, I doubt there's money out there for this, and I don't know who would do it, but I don't know if there's some sort of Esperanto streaming service out there that would be interested, but you definitely could, now you could just take that print and go back and do 4K or at least the high def master of it, and then and erase those those French burn-in subtitles and have a much cleaner, nicer viewing experience, and mat it to the correct aspect.
Do you know how much that kind of process would cost, Gabe?
It would cost $785 a foot. No, I don't know. I mean, like, no, I don't know, but I think it's more just that where's that money coming from? I mean, it would only be coming from these days. It'd only be coming from a streaming service if that had some value for them. I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Well, being an observer of genre TV and film, every now and then it does come up. For instance, and you'll forgive because once again we're talking about Outer Limits. We always have to talk about a Star Trek connection. When they remastered The Next Generation for Blu-ray and all. The Paramount, the people behind the scenes and others have said it's such an expensive process. There's probably an unlikelihood that they ever will do it for the other Star Trek shows, the subsequent shows like Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and not Enterprise because that was shot in HD. But that said, or even Rob Burnetta, who I know, who made Free Enterprise. Really, I mean, and again, because he was one of the producers,
right.
It's like, hey, it would cost this much for me to buy the negative and put it in the format that I want and put back the scenes that I want. So that's why I just didn't know.
Right, but the point you're making is that they did that for The Next Generation. It didn't sell. It didn't make its money back. It didn't. They don't want to. They don't want to do it for the subsequent ones. And Star Trek is popular. We are talking about Incubus. We're talking about
But I also wondered if
in Esperanto.
I also wondered if, given that it was in black and white, is it less expensive? I'm a novice.
I doubt it. I mean, there's not the color correction.
No, also we're only dealing with 1 hour and 10-minute movie versus.
Totally. I mean, if there is a kind-hearted, good Samaritan philanthropist out there who has the money, loves Incubus, and really, really wants to fund this thing, then my God, prove me wrong. I would love to see it.
I mean, yeah.
Just got to tell the producers there's 7 people in Philadelphia. There
you go.
6 people in San Antonio.
Exactly. No, I was going to say maybe we call Scorsese, but I have a feeling I'm not the biggest Incubus fan.
I'll bet. No. I'll bet you he fucking loves Incubus. I guarantee you. If Martin Scorsese was on this podcast right now, we would probably be, we'd get more people to watch. But also, I'll bet you he would go on forever about Incubus. I guarantee you he likes this movie.
Well, I got it. Oh, that's funny. Speaking of which, Jimmy says showing up with a new 4K webcam. That's I suppose so. The camera on my backup laptop is really shitty, so I did buy this other one in case I need a backup and stuff. So that's what we're looking at right now. But that's so funny. Steven says GoFundMe or Kickstarter the Incubus project. Why not?
Look, great. Like, I can't do it. I don't own Incubus, but if
I don't know if that producer is still alive.
Get a bunch of dead people on the horn and see if it can work out. Like, I don't know who the hell. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, somebody owns it. Obviously.
By the way, the reason why I included Shatner's Twitter handle to promote that we were doing this tonight on that 1 in a million chance that they're talking about one of my old movies. Maybe I will show up.
Yeah, his attitude. His attitude in the commentary tells me he was not proud of Incubus.
I'm grooming my horses tonight, my Arabian horses. I can't be bothered with this Incubus retrospective, but I do appreciate it.
I think he might be the only person from this movie who's still alive. Also,
he may be. Which
please.
I think now we have to talk about the quote unquote cursed aspect of this. As with every cursed movie, bunch of bullshit, just people with problems in the world. But but there.
I don't need to laugh because it is tragic.
There are quite a number of tragedies associated with this movie. One of the actresses, Anne Atmar, if that was her name, if that's right. Who's one? She committed suicide like weeks after they wrapped this movie.
Isn't that her or no?
No, it's the sister.
It's the sister. Pardon.
Yeah. Yes. And then, which is obviously sad and tragic, and it happens if people come out here, they aren't successful, and life is tough. But but Miloš, if that I would assume that's how you say it. This Serbian actor who plays the Incubus himself. This is a fucking story. Like, this guy was. I mean, he was having an affair with Barbara Ann Thompson, who is the estranged wife of Mickey Rooney. And they and so if to hear tell, they Milos shot her and then killed himself, I believe in one of Mickey Rooney's houses. But the conspiracy minded among us may look at this and go, perhaps Mickey Rooney killed them both. I don't know. I'm not saying he did.
All right, I'm gonna shut the camera off because I have to get up and walk over and grab my Mickey Rooney autobiography that does cover this tragedy.
Please do.
This is how much I was scrambling tonight. So stand by.
Please do.
You guys continue.
And I'm not suggesting that was the case. But
the only way
some people have.
The only way I believe it is if they were shot like in the kneecaps, and like that's it. Like
that's
no
true.
higher.
Ballistics would have told this story because there would definitely be a height issue for the trajectory of the bullets. I mean, I don't believe that's the case, but my God, like, how sleazy and tragic a Hollywood story is that? That's just so,
this guy, because he was a bodyguard for who's the French actor?
Alain Delon, right?
Yeah, he was like his bodyguard, and then he got
and his double as well. Yeah, like his stand-in or something, like lighting double or something.
Very like once upon a time.
Milos was Alain Delon's bodyguard,
and like stand-in, like lighting double or something like that.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I think they may have mentioned that in the commentary as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, a copy of Life's Too Short by Mickey Rooney.
My God.
I am not ashamed of owning this.
Let's get right to the index.
You continue. You guys continue. I'll get to the
He's listed under Milos.
Yes, it's just
Milos,
first or last name. It works.
Like contemporary actor, formerly one of the co-stars of Mike and Molly, Nyambe, also in The Good Fight, and a massive comic book fan who I've seen at many comic conventions over the last few years.
Very interesting. Well, while you're finding that, I will. I'll just go on to a couple other tragedies associated with this. The actress Eloise Hart, who like a couple years later, like 2 years later, she her 17-year-old daughter was kidnapped and murdered. Kidnapped from the in front of her house, stabbed to death. Her throat was cut, and she was dumped on the side of Mulholland Drive or something. Oh, horribly tragic. And obviously,
people think it might be Manson connected.
There are a lot of thoughts. There are a lot of thoughts about that. Yeah, I mean, I to the extent, but we don't know who killed her. There's
it's an unsolved case.
Yes. So I'm sure that there's like 85 podcasts about this particular incident out there because that's the only thing anybody does podcasts about.
It's about time we become a true crime podcast. I mean,
oh, that's true. Finally, look, this is our crossover moment, right? John, you got to promote it that way.
Absolutely.
For those keeping record,
continue. No. I'll be ready. Make your points, and then I'll be ready.
For those keeping record,
what's that?
That would be the second Manson connect to the Outer Limits because Joseph Stefano and his family lived on Cielo Drive, near Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate's house.
Yep, which we covered on in our interview with Dominic Stefano from a couple weeks ago that you definitely should check out if you're listening to this. Go ahead, John.
This on the curse, the curse of the Incubus section on the DVD, which is just these text pages. It ends with, and then Allison Ames and Leslie Stevens got divorced and Daybreak went bankrupt. I'm like, okay. Things are bad, but their kids are being murdered, someone kills themselves, and I've never had a studio go bankrupt. I probably not great, but
but
his kid was murdered. I mean,
yeah, exactly. He went on to do other work. It was fine. Like, yeah, it sucks if your production company goes out of business. But look, he went on to create other shows. He went on to do a lot of other work. It's fine. People have lives. They get married and divorced. It's,
Well, again, from Mickey's autobiography, first I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Geez, they were dead by the time I got there. But he was...
Is that the title of the chapter?
Well, no. It's there's an entire chapter, and it's titled Barbara. But this is near the end. And he was in the Philippines shooting a movie called Ambush Bay. And,
yeah, that's what he'd like you to believe.
Exactly. And when he got back, he had contracted some sort of Asian disease being in the Philippines, so he was in the hospital. But apparently, he said, when I arrived home, Barbara and Milos were both there at the airport to meet me. Barbara greeted me coolly while Milos hugged me like a long-lost brother and kissed me on the cheek, like a Judas. I found some socks in the family laundry room that weren't mine. So, but he collapsed, was in the hospital, and I learned that Barbara, while I was in the hospital, I learned that Barbara was planning to file for divorce. I beat her to it by filing myself, asking for custody of my 4 children because Barbara was an unfit mother. I also asked for a court order restraining Milos from setting foot in our house. Marge Lane, Barbara's best friend, later told me the move had scared Barbara. Afraid she would lose the kids, she asked Milos to leave. Milos flew into a rage, but he packed his things and left after telling one of Barbara's friends, if she even looks at another man, I'll shoot her and myself. Again, this is all Mickey. One Sunday afternoon, Barbara visited me in the hospital. We talked for an hour. Barbara ended up in tears, promising we'd get back together no matter what. She still wouldn't admit that there had been anything improper between her and Milos, but she conceded, if it makes you unhappy, I won't even see Milos as a friend. Blah, blah, blah.
I do not believe a word of this. Like, this is all incredibly convenient. And look, I'm not saying he did anything, but I'm saying he's full of shit.
Right. Well, Barbara told her friend Marge Lane, I want Milos to leave, otherwise I'm going to lose the kids, but he won't go. Barbara would never have a chance to leave. At 1:30 the next afternoon, the police arrived at her home in Brentwood, called by Wilma Catania, a friend of Barbara's who had also been staying in the guest house. Shortly after noon, Wilma told Detective Sergeant Newser, all right, here's the Jack Webb part. Wilma told Detective Sergeant Newser of the Los Angeles Police Department that she and the maid had jimmied open the door of the master bedroom suite and found Milos's body slumped over Barbara's in the master bed. The police found the bodies, obviously dead, with bullets in their brains. My own .38 revolver lay next to him. I don't mean to laugh. This is so grisly. But my own .38 revolver lay next to him, a revolver that Barbara had kept in her nightstand because she was afraid of prowlers. The kids never saw their mother's body. And then Sig Froelich couldn't tell me. He told my doctor, Dr. Butley, you'll know how to tell them, Mick, about the kids learning that their mother was dead. Crazy stuff, man. All in Life's Too Short. Mickey Rooney, everybody.
Yeah. I think I was just... I was just listening to something with what's his name, Ben Mankiewicz on it, and he was talking about interviewing Mickey Rooney for like the TCM festivals or whatever, and how he just didn't tell the truth about anything. Like his stories were so lacking in credibility just on the surface that it was ridiculous.
Judge for yourself.
Too short to tell the truth.
Yeah, you got the printed words on the DVD. You got Mickey Rooney's counterclaims, but
yes,
fun stuff.
So, anyways, I mean, I think that's the scope of the tragedies associated with this for the most part, apart from Shatner's toupee. But the
come on, it was 1965. He did not have a.
Are you kidding me?
Even that far back, for real?
Are you serious? Because this is serious stuff. No. Toupee. This is 1966. He 100% had a toupee on the original series. You're gonna go back. You need to go back to your primary sources for Star Trek here, because they
season 3 very likely.
No.
Well, first of all, the producer said they shot this thing in 65, or at the very. I mean, at least that's what he said. Maybe he's misremembering by a few months. But this is. I mean, again. Star Trek didn't start, or at least it didn't air until the fall of '66. I don't know.
All right, no, there was that. Now I can't remember his name now, but there was a production executive who wrote a book about the making of Star Trek like 25 years ago.
Yeah,
Herb Solo. And in that, he specifically talks about how Shatner's toupee was so ratty that they had to buy him a new one. If there is one thing
that we're certain about,
I keep very good track of, it's toupees. Okay, so like I'm not backing down.
And I will confess, I am horrible when it comes to. I didn't realize Jack Klugman was wearing a toupee during Odd Couple.
Okay, well then why are we even continuing this conversation?
I understand. I am not the most observant. You believe me. I know. What do you mean? I have no idea.
I'm just a little obsessed with toupees.
No,
for obvious reasons, because of my, because I have to really, make sure that mine is working.
Going back to that,
it's a very minimal toupee.
The interview that the Outer Limits author had with the trio when they're talking about Shatner, and it's like, oh wow, this is really like this, desperate time in Shatner's career. I'm sorry, I have to disagree, because this is 1965, because he really made it sound like, yeah, Shatner was in a couple movies, and yeah, he did the Corman film, and he was in Judgment in Nuremberg, but really he wasn't doing much. That's a crock of shit, because actually William Shatner had, granted, they didn't get picked up or they didn't last more than a season, but he had that lawyer show for the People prior to this for a year on CBS. He was in a couple other pilots that didn't work out. And I think much like Adam West, pre-Batman, he was a good enough looking leading man that I do believe, had things not worked out with Star Trek, William Shatner would have continued working. And
that's very likely true, but there is an element of, in anybody's show business career, where if you have a string of, flops or, not successes anyway, that's going to taint you to a degree. And I'm sure that for real though, I think that probably from, possibly from the William Shatner point of view, at this point, pre-Star Trek, he would have felt like, I need a hit. I need something that's gonna break through. Well, I think that I'd feel like that if I think that that's a pretty reasonable thing. Not to say that he was in desperate straits and he was going to be on the street.
Well, so I forgot one other plum thing that he was involved with, and that was The World of Susie Wong, the Broadway play, which was a massive success on Broadway, and he was the main co-star of that.
Absolutely.
And so I can see, again, in that period, if things didn't work out, that he could go back to New York. And I'm not saying whatever. I just don't think things were as desperate as that author suggested.
Well, they probably were not desperate, because he clearly was still getting work. It's just that he had not. I mean, I think that I imagined that there would be an enormous amount of insecurity, and maybe this was something that they, that they picked up on in working with him at the time, that if you don't have a job that is continuing and you've not had a breakthrough success. So which at that point he had not really.
So Stevens was still producing season 2 of Outer Limits, because Shatner, again, in the commentary, he doesn't specify Cold Hands, but obviously that's what he's talking about.
Yes.
I worked with Leslie before on an hour show. I don't. Oh yeah, Outer Limits.
Yeah, somebody clearly off mic is feeding him the Outer Limits. So I mean, since we have not delved deeply into the second season, I actually don't know the specifics of how all that works as well, and I guess we'll find out, in the future. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the Outer Limits is available streaming anywhere anymore, so that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. But
for the rest of it,
not for us, but for everybody else. But it will be interesting to even if if creatively I'm not as excited. We'll be interested in to just kind of dive into how the creative changed and what new producers and different people involved and all that stuff.
Well, and again, we've got 17 episodes to go through second season wise, and in that second season, as much as it is inferior in a lot of ways to the first season, you still get a lot of classic episodes like I, Robot, like Cold Hands, like Keeper of the Purple Twilight, like the two-parter.
And frankly, I haven't watched these in a long time. I'm excited and interested to just take it on its own terms and see how successful it is.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Isham points out that Alexander the Great pilot that Shatner and Adam West made together. I'm reasonably certain that's still on YouTube. And people can find it.
Unsold pilots. Sorry, what? I missed
John Cassavetes is also in that.
Oh yes, that's right, John Cassavetes. I forgot about that.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Like last year, I read John Cassavetes' biography. They talked about that a little bit, and I could imagine was him and Shatner.
Well, after our Outer Limits and our other various podcasts, I'm looking forward to our retrospective on the great John Cassavetes TV series,
Johnny Staccato.
Thank you. I love that show.
I love that name. I feel like the name of that show is like the greatest 60s TV show name.
Well, and
late 50s TV show, whatever.
Yeah, like Peter Gunn and some of these other shows of that era stuff. Great jazz score. Yeah. And Cassavetes is the jazz piano player in the club and everything in between murders.
Yeah, so. I actually just speaking of Peter Gunn, I bought there was that feature film, the Peter Gunn feature. I bought a Czechoslovakian post. Yeah.
Oh wow!
So like I don't love that movie, but I actually love the poster so much, and it was $40, so I got
it. That's fantastic.
That's great, man. I'll show it to you when it arrives.
You're right. It's what's interesting about it, and again, it's much like we've discussed before, that period. Well, like last week with the Stefano film or the pilot that actually played as a film overseas. I would imagine the success of the Gunn TV series, the half-hour show, and also maybe like with the success of things like Dragnet coming back, maybe it was a backdoor pilot of, hey, maybe we could do it again with Craig Stevens playing Peter.
I don't know. I mean, I think, but it was. I'm almost positive that it's Blake Edwards who's making it, and,
right?
And I'm pretty sure he directed it. I think that.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember what. There was some story where somebody. Oh God. Okay, I don't have enough information for this. Right, I just remember something about somebody talking to him and having a bad experience. But so I think that we've mostly done this. Oh, I wanted to say that this is not the only. It's not the only fiction Esperanto movie, and it's not even the first.
Right.
There was another movie, a French movie that I guess translates as Agonies by Jacques Louis. I don't know how to say it. M-A-H-E.
Something French, I believe.
Yeah. From 1964, and it's it's some sort of crime story set in Paris. I have not seen it. I don't know how to see it.
Maybe it's out there. Watching right now. It's like maybe I was wrong about these guys. Maybe they're not as smart as we thought. His name is Louis.
Look, I'm not going to pretend like I can pronounce anything in French. I am hopeless in Paris. I can't pronounce the subway stop or whatever. Like it's hopeless.
Frontieri, Dominic Fortune, please. Good Lord, I'm right behind you. Short bus. Don't kid yourself.
And I just wanted to say one last thing on the Esperanto thing. This is very tangential, but on Easter, I decided to take a drive up to the Antelope Valley, just north of where I live in Los Angeles, and to check out the ruins of Llano del Rio, which was a socialist commune, like a collective thing from the early part of from the early 1900s that was established by Job Harriman, who ran for mayor of Los Angeles on the socialist ticket and almost won. But when he lost, they moved up and they set up this commune up in collective, whatever, socialist collective up in Antelope Valley off the Parablossom Highway, and there they set about to learn and speak Esperanto. So that's my personal Esperanto connection for this week.
The other thing regarding Esperanto is, okay, it's made in 65, 66. There really was this period of maybe we can get our act together internationally. Maybe we can. There was interest in Esperanto at the time.
Yeah.
I know too in Canada, the 1976 Expo was very successful and a very important thing in Montreal. And, in fact, wow, another thing, the pilot that takes a thief, the Robert Wagner, Alexander Monday thing, there's part of it takes place at the 67 Montreal Expo.
Oh, funny.
So yeah, I mean, again, as pipe dreamy or what the hell were you thinking making this in Esperanto at the time? It's, if you really do take yourself back, and I agree because the producer kind of defended that obviously to the Outer Limits author, and again, it's easy to do that. Yeah, I thought I said the 67 Expo, Trinzini, but thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like it wasn't as far fetched as you would think.
Yeah, but it is a neat idea. And really, I don't think that it hurts the movie. I think that it's fine. I think it's kind of interesting, even if I mean, I don't speak Esperanto. I don't know, how good their pronunciation is, but they also don't sound like they can speak Esperanto. They just sound like they're saying, phonetic words in English. But you just get used to it to some extent. And I think that it's a neat looking movie. There are really cool kind of, scary even, elements to it, and serious folk horror elements to it. And I think it's ripe for rediscovery.
Agreed. And I do think here horror fans of especially interesting independent 60s movies would still find it very entertaining. And yeah, I mean, I just Stephen asked if Leslie Stevens was interested in New Age ideas.
Which I'm not so sure about, because he really seems to be, from what we heard from Dominic Stefano, from what I've read otherwise, he seemed to be a very science-oriented guy. So I'm not entirely clear on that. It would be interesting to know, to what extent he was into stuff like that.
Yeah. But again, I the fact they were able to make it in 10 days, I do think is an achievement, and all, but by the same token, they were geared to make things that quickly, and it really is this great look at a very Outer Limits-esque horror story and everything, and it's kind of interesting that, again, the more sci-fi guy that Stevens was made this kind of movie as well.
And I just wanted to, as far as Leslie Stevens, director goes, I just wanted to point out that he made an earlier movie before The Outer Limits called Private Property, starring Corey Allen and, the greatest actor, Warnotes, and which is actually great. And there's a Blu-ray out there. It's not super available streaming, but the Blu-ray is worth it. It's a really interesting, also kind of disturbing, there's a kind of disturbing tone to it as well, and it has, it almost has a little bit of a Patricia Highsmith sort of quality to it, where there's sort of a couple of drifters who break into a house in the hills in Los Angeles and spy on the woman next door and then insinuate themselves into her life. And I think it's actually a really good movie. And it was shot by Ted McCord, who shot Stony Burke, and was also, and Conrad Hall worked on it as well. There's a lot of crew-oriented connections to The Outer Limits, and and it's like, if you go seek that out. He directed a feature after that called Heroes Island, which I have not been able to find and not been able to see. I would really like to, but all these things are. I mean, I'm glad we were able to take the time to, a couple of weeks to talk about these kind of ancillary things, because they all inform each other. They're all made by the same people, and I love those kind of connections.
Completely. No, and again, this is kind of another Daystar Productions chapter that I'm glad we're talking about stuff. God, honestly, there are Stony Burke episodes, obviously, that we can watch.
All right, next week is all Stony Burke instead of.
No, but honestly, and I know you're.
No, I'm 100%. You're not convincing me.
I know, but honestly, and I'm even saying to the audience as well that maybe before we let go, that we do look at both Private Property and Stony Burke.
Yeah.
Just because, again, it's just part of this milieu, and why not? I mean,
I think that would be great. Maybe there's some gray market version of Heroes Island I can find out there as well. Because that kind of leads into The Outer Limits. So, I definitely think maybe after, if we're still going after the end of the second season, or at a break someplace, we should definitely take a look at that stuff. I would love to. It would be great.
No, and again, I do. I think it kind of fits what we're doing here and everything, because we really are talking about Stevens and Stefano, and why not? But also, and it's funny you say, like, a gray version of the film or whatever. Windy City Pulp Con is the Chicago pulp convention, obviously. And most of the time when I attend, I am scouring the bins for the bootlegs of these orphan films that haven't graduated to full DVD. And thank God, man, I'll tell you, they never fail me, where I always find some cool monogram film that, Kino Lorber or whoever would possibly take it, are there to, make the print yet. So yeah, I found a lot of treasures like that. And I don't know what's going on, although I did hear that the organizers of Windy City just bought a key pulp magazine from Heritage for like $70,000. And I was amazed by that. He must have a great private collection, because it's the Windy City show, as opposed to big conventions and stuff, is still a very old fashioned convention for, genre convention and stuff, where it really isn't like one hotel room and the like and everything. So I don't know.
That's cool.
Forgive the tangent, but
no, absolutely. That's a coda for this episode. So I think we're mostly done here, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We can wrap up. No, this was. I'm so glad we watched it. I again, if you haven't and happen to see this first, there's a version on YouTube that you can watch that's just as washed out as the one that's on the the DVD. Oh, and Jikuro also points out, and I have seen this, that unsold Nero Wolfe pilot where Shatner plays Archie Goodwin, and it's Kurt Kasner that plays Nero Wolfe. And I know we talked about it last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember if we said this on the air or not, but he is kind of the Dr. Smith of Land of the Giants, one of those great, the producer.
Irwin Allen.
Yeah, in that period where Irwin Allen literally had like 4 or 5 shows on the air at the same time, between Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Lost in Space, Land of the Giants, Time Tunnel. And Kurt Kasner's terrific. And really, that pilot, I enjoyed it. I think it was great.
I watched it sometime pretty recently too. It was fun. Yeah. And Shatner is actually pretty charming in it.
I think and again, that's kind of my point of, it's like
we retrospectively like it and Shatner, but that doesn't mean that he was successful. Having a failed pilot is a bad thing for you.
No, I understand, Gabe, but I do think he had enough successes that somebody else would take it.
Well, we don't have to worry about that because he's Captain Kirk.
Look at that face. How do you deny that face? My God.
Look at that toupee. All right, we're done.
All over. Exactly. It doesn't show, does it? No, you're fine, Bill. You're fine. Roll. So it's so bummy. I'm so sorry. I didn't have time. Did I? I didn't even post it. No, I had a shot of that first guy that Robert
Fortier. Actually, I meant to talk about him. He just for a brief thing at the end here.
Wait.
He went on to work with Robert Altman all the time. He was in, McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Popeye and Three Women. And he's actually great in Three Women. There's a beautiful Criterion version of that. One of my favorite Altman movies, totally worth it. But he and Chuck Rocher, who was the camera operator on this, and then went on to be the DP for Altman. They were like best friends, so they always worked together on all those movies. So,
I thought this was a very inventive shot, which is one of the reasons why I screen capped it to show at the beginning. Showing again, we really didn't talk about this, but the reason why they were all there was this well that supposedly had miraculous healing powers and even youth invigorating powers as well, and of course. Shatner's there with his sister, and she goes blind, of course, because kind of like in Ghostbusters, don't look at the trap, Ray, or don't look at the trap, they blind you. I looked at the trap, Ray. She's looking at much like our former Secretary of the Treasury and his ridiculously beautiful wife, totally out of his league, going to or watching the eclipse from Fort Knox.
Right. Yes. Yeah. let's not talk about them. But instead, let's elegantly sign off, and but I guess that we're going to be seeing you next week to talk about the first episode of season 2.
And immediately will mean that we'll be talking about more around William Shatner, because doesn't it open with Cold Hands?
No, I don't think so.
What is it?
Soldier, the first Harlan.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
Of course. Good Lord. And thank God we're starting with a really classic episode.
Yeah, and I will probably have James Cameron on here to talk about it as well.
Or I'll break out the Ouija board, and we will have the spirit of Harlan Ellison yelling from his grave about
one Ouija board.
Fuck this up too. So,
all right, let's go.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for watching. See you guys next week as we start season 2, The Outer Limits. Bye-bye, everybody.